Hello, today we're going to change the engine harness on this 1994 Mercedes E320. It has the M104 engine and the chassis is a W124. The reason that we need to change this harness is that Mercedes decided to use a biodegradable material for the insulation that covers the wires on the engine harness. And after a while they start to biodegrade, and that causes a number of issues. So we need to replace that. Now there are two options that you can go. One option is to get a brand new harness, and they run, the cheapest that I could find was $854 to close to $1,100 for a brand new one. I chose to go with the used route simply because it is so much cheaper. I picked a harness that was around $200, and the build date on that harness was 2004. And when I received the harness, I did inspect it, and the wires looked brand new. So I figured, it's worth a try. The engine harness starts behind the battery, which is right over here, and there's a plastic cover that needs to be removed so we can access the main connector. It runs alongside this bulkhead over here, and in fact you can see one of the cables right here. It goes along this plastic cover right here to the front of the engine, as well as to inside the spark plug access cover. From reading on the internet, it should take about an hour and a half or so to do it. I'm going to try to do that, and we're going to take this cover access off, and we've got to take the crossover tube off. We've got to remove the battery, and that should do it. Don't forget, when you disconnecting the battery, you always disconnect the negative cable first, and it should be the last cable going back in to the battery. Let's go take a look at the replacement harness. Okay, so here is the replacement harness, and if we start right here on the left hand side, this is the main connector that connects to the rest of the electrical system, and the battery sits right here in front of this cable assembly right here. It gets routed around the bulkhead, and this is that big plastic piece that has the distribution for the there's 1, 2, 3 coil wires, and then in the back it has the fuel injector connections as well. And then over here to the right, it goes to the front of the engine here, and there's a number of wires there. So that's what it looks like. Special tools, there's really none. You need a 10mm socket to remove the 2 nuts that hold the crossover tube, and you need a 5mm Allen socket to remove the 6 screws that hold down the spark plug access cover. And you need a long screwdriver so you can take the hose clamp that holds the crossover tube into the intake manifold. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so let's get started on the front of the engine. I'm going to remove this front cover. There's a little snap right here. Just use a screwdriver and you pry it up, and it just lifts right out, just like that. Okay, now I already loosened the hose clamp that holds this crossover tube into the intake manifold, and use your long screwdriver right through here, and you should be able to gain access to it. All right, I'm going to disconnect this harness. This is part of the new harness that's going to have to be replaced. I'm going to go to the next guy, which is this connector right here. You turn it, and it pulls right out. Okay. There are 2 10mm nuts right back here. I loosened those already, but now I'm going to remove them. There's 1 and 2. Okay. And there are 2 clips that hold this crossover tube to the air filter assembly, and this guy now should be able to come right out. And there it is. And now we can take the 6 bolts, the 5mm hex bolts that hold this cover on. There's some washers in there. There's actually 1 washer per bolt. this guy comes right out like that. Okay, let's disconnect the battery next. Okay, so the battery is held down by a 13 millimeter nut that's down here. Already loosened it. So this is the hold down clamp that physically attaches the battery and keeps it down. So as I said, it's a 13 millimeter and it comes right out. And here's that clamp, and the nut goes right on top of that clamp, and the bolt goes right through here. So that's that. Now we're going to disconnect the battery cable. I loosen the negative first already, so that should come right out like that. We do the same thing to the positive terminal, which is here. And then this battery. This particular one has a nice strap, that lifting strap, so that makes it easy. And, here it comes. Okay, next we're going to take out this little plastic piece. This is where you're going to be able to see the wiring harness, and that just comes right out of there, like so. And here is this harness right here behind the main harness that we're going to replace. Alright, so I'm going to show you a close-up of where that connector goes. You can see the big massive connector right there. That's where the main harness plugs into. And it's kind of tricky to get it out. I mean, it's not too bad, except your hand is kind of cramped in there. But here's the head of it, and you use this mechanism right here to unlock it and lift it up, and you have to go at an angle like this and push it this way, because there's a plastic clip right here with some plastic tabs that you insert into this metal piece to keep it the back end in place so it doesn't move away from it. The cable is routed, down here, and I pulled it out. There's a couple of metal spacers here to keep the cable back on. Now it's going to go through this little, it looks like fiberglass cover right here. So we have to take this rubber piece out, and then there's a slit on this cover, and you should be able to remove the old one and put the new one in. So I'm going to start at this end, doing one connector at a time, and we'll go from there. Alright, so it turns out that you really don't have to take this piece off. If you just put a screwdriver here and pop it off the plastic holder right here, you have enough room to lift this and remove the cable like I've done here. So this is the harness that was going through here, and now it's out. I'm going to put the new one in, make the connections. There's 1, 2 connections right here, and we'll continue from there. Okay, so next we're going to take out this plastic cover for this plastic assembly right here, and there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 little plastic clips, and if you just take a screwdriver and push the plastic this way, here, 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 and here, then this piece lifts up, and it attaches with these round clips here, here, and here to this tube over here. I guess it's part of the fuel injection system. Okay, this next step is a bit tricky, so I'm going to have to describe it, and then we'll take it from there. So this is the O piece right here. It's held in place by one 10mm bolt, and there's another 10mm bolt here, but that's not part of this assembly. It's actually a little clamp that holds these 2 harnesses, which is part of the main harness. And then right here there's a tap that goes into the spark plug assembly. This tap is associated with the 3 wires that go to the coils right in here. You can see that right there. There's the tap right there. This goes into the spark plug access area, and this is the new piece that goes right here. So we have to take, this piece here and this piece and put the new one in place. And by the way, this old piece here has 1, 2, and 3 clips that, they're tabs, plastic tabs that actually get inserted to the engine block, so that's held in place that way. Okay, and then down here you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 plugs that need to be removed. Those are the fuel injector control plugs. A slight complication here, there's one cable that comes from the old harness that goes underneath the intake manifold and attaches to this black assembly here. The assembly is held in place by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5mm hex bolts. These here are pretty straightforward to get. This one here, you can't use a socket, you have to use a long Allen wrench to get them in there. This guy basically pulls out like so, and that cable actually attaches to these two connectors right here, and here's the old cable right here. So we're gonna be able to free this guy up and continue on. Alright, so we put the main body of the harness in. It's all connected. We got 1, 2, and 3 coil wires. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 injector connectors, and we got the one nasty one down there. It's hard to see, connected as well. And then you put in the 4 5mm bolts, you tighten them down, and finally there are some rubber boots that cover the holes right here for this black assembly. Okay, so the next task is we have probably another 10 or so connectors associated with the front of the engine, but there's the new one and here's the old one, and as I said, I've been going one at a time, just remove and replace. So here's the front of the engine, and we're going to replace the 4 connectors here. Actually, there's 3 connectors. There's 1, 2, and 3, and then there's a grounding strap. So the grounding strap attaches to this bolt right here. Okay. The other 2 connectors, actually there's 2 other cables, they attach to this vacuum manifold right here. One is on the bottom and the other one is on the top, and then there's yet a 3rd cable that attaches to this other connector right here. Be careful, these old cars have very brittle vacuum lines, and while I was removing this vacuum assembly, I broke one of the vacuum plastic hoses here. It's not a big deal. I can get a regular rubber tubing and fix that, so that's no problem. There's one more cable assembly with 2 connectors that goes down below. I have to find that out, and then the last remaining cable goes to this little assembly right here on the right hand side of the car, and it only has a grounding strap, which is right here, and a connector plug right here. So I'm going to attach those 3 cables. Okay, so the 3 cables and 1 ground strap has been connected on the new harness. As you can see, this is the broken vacuum line. I'm going to have to go to the store and buy a little piece of rubber tube, and that should fix that. Okay, now the last bit of harness, it's kind of hard to see, but it actually connects quite easily right here in the front. So now we should be able to pull this whole harness out, and lo and behold, here is the old harness, and all the connectors had deteriorated to the point where when I went to take them off, the plastic housing broke right away. So it was definitely time to replace this monster. Alright, I'm gonna button it up and run to the store and get that little tube to fix the vacuum line. And then we'll start her up and make sure that she runs the way it should. Alright, so I'm back from the store and I picked up some 5/32 black tubing, vacuum tubing from Pep Boys. It cost $4. And rather than replace, just a small section that was pretty brittle to begin with, I replaced the whole run. It starts down here, it goes around this assembly, around the thermostat, and it actually joins on the Y way down there with this other tubing here. So I replace it from down there all the way up to this vacuum manifold. I put everything back together already. This cover here, I should mention that when we had that off, if your spark plugs needed replacing, that would have been a good time to replace them. But the battery is back on. It's connected. You can see the new harness, being routed through here. It comes out on the other side, so this is part of the new harness. And basically, this is the old piece, but underneath is the new piece. So here is the split where it goes to the front of the engine, down to the engine, and also to this bulkhead over here. And I had to cut some tie wraps that held this harness down here, so I replaced the tie wraps here as well. Considering the overall time of the job, 1.5 hours seems very reasonable, and if I didn't have to do the filming, I would have certainly accomplished that in that time period. The harness itself, I did cut a little bit the insulation. Unfortunately, it's very hard to see, but yeah, sure enough, it is degrading, so it was definitely the right time to do it. Regarding the harness itself, the 1994 is a split. There's actually two harnesses depending on your chassis serial number. You have to order one or the other. Mine is an earlier one, so it requires a different one. So let's start her up and make sure that she runs. Alright, as you can see, she started right up, no hesitation. Seems to be running very smooth, and job done.